Ravichandran when Ashwin was trying something a bit sly. He was using a short run-up to slip one through and upset Ollie Pope's rhythm. Ball is full and straight, and he's trying to get that cheeky kind of LBW. Pope rushes his shot and gets away with it. In baseball, they call this a quick pitch. A few minutes later, Ashwin is trying this again, but this time Joe Root is batting, and he backs away. He wouldn't even let Ashwin try it. For a very long time, Joe Root was not in this kind of control of his batting senses. His batting had never been terrible, but there was clearly a dip there. And because he had once made so many runs, the drop looked worse. He was committing the worst crime, a failure to convert, like a home improvement show without the final scene. And it looked like we had an early peak Joe Root, and we'd never see that again. And it was a hard thing to work out, because he would get to 50 easily and then not go anywhere. This is where it all gets weird, because what do you do with a batsman who is good enough to score 50 every other innings, but not go any further? Do you know how important it is to find a batsman who can score that regularly, even if it isn't 100 runs? You can build a team around that. And also, what advice do you give him? Hey Joe, pretend your score resets when you get to 50. Technical issues, form issues, even confidence issues are easier to handle. Essentially, you'd be telling Joe Root he needed to go out there and score more runs, but for longer. Do what he was doing, but just not go out, which is kind of the advice for everyone at all times. And he did make some technical changes. It's just that they didn't really seem to work that much. And all this is weirder because he was on top of the world for a while. He was the big one before there was a big four. But Steve Smith moved past him fairly quickly, and that's fine because Smith is not a real boy. But then so did the other two. And for a while, people wanted to downvote Smith out of the big four, even though Babar Azam is in the wrong age bracket. And Root somehow ended up averaging less than 50. If nothing else, these last three innings have at least corrected a moral wrong with his cricket average. And you can see the creepy good form that Root is in right now. There was a point in this innings where Jasprit Bumrah had delivered a full straight one, and on the replay it was clear that Root was in a position so early, like his foot was actually down on the pitch as the ball was being bowled. It was like bullet time in the Matrix. And a few balls later, he was moving across his stumps to cover the reverse swing, but then the ball had slightly more width, and even though he was outside off stump, he arched back and played a cut to the third man boundary. But it wasn't one of those late cuts that are really edges. It was from the middle of the bat, into a gap, obscenely safe, like a shot in a computer game. And that width was fascinating because almost every time he got something wide, he dealt with it. And there wasn't much of that because the seamers bowled very well, so Root treated them carefully. But this also shows how good Root was against the spin. In the BBB era, which is the ball-by-ball data era, I just sort of came up with the phrase, may need some more work. He has the 9th best average against spin. Now many Asian batsmen would love to face their spin outside of Asia, but clearly Root can handle turn. CricViz recently did a special on how good Root is against a spinning ball. And the one thing they drilled down on is that he doesn't play many balls in the danger zone, which from a spinner is between the 2 and 3 metre mark. He either goes back or forward. It's simple, smother the spin or give yourself extra time. Avoid the danger zone. And he's taken that to an extreme, like he's batting as an algorithm. No one has been this good off the front and back foot for a long time. But a bit like two magical Hollywood dancers, Root is in near perpetual motion. His biggest skill as a batsman is how easy he finds it to get off strike. Like first ball this match, he came in after Bumrah had blasted one through Dan Lawrence, and he gave Root a good ball around off stump. But Root defended it with an open face to backward point, and off he jogged for another one of his easy singles. But if that's something that Root does a lot, he also changed it up a little bit. Against Sri Lanka, Root played a lot of sweeps. In Chennai, he didn't sweep so much. Now perhaps it has something to do with the height that Ashwin and Sundar released the ball, or maybe the Indian bowlers tried to bowl a little bit fuller so he couldn't play that shot. But again, this is Root at his very best, not playing one method, but changing it slightly for every match. And this doesn't even include reverses or slog sweeps, which he played even more of at Galle. But in this innings, he found other ways to score. When he thought he needed them, he was happy to reverse or slog sweep. Had the pitch spun more, I'm sure he would have swept a lot more. Root being this good at spin hasn't just happened overnight. England didn't press the magic spin button for him. And the whole story of Root and spin is so interesting. A few things happened. Joe Root was a very small child and he couldn't hit the ball off the square when he was young. And so the sweep shot was important to him because it allowed him to score. He also happens to come from Sheffield Collegiate, which is a pitch in Yorkshire which spins more than other pitches do. And not only that, he had a mentor at that club. He had access to Nadim Khan, Moin Khan's brother, and now a key figure in the future of Pakistani cricket. This is not an accident. Root was bred to be one of England's best ever players of spin. But right now, it's not just spin, it's kind of everything. The way he's looking at cricket, the way he's seeing what Ashwin is doing before Ashwin is doing it. All the parts of his game are working completely perfectly. Like when he was batting with Dom Sibley, he sped up. And when he started batting with Ben Stokes, he slowed down. It was completely natural and normal for him to do that. And none of this is new. Root's been good against spin for a long time. He's always been brilliant at finding singles, and he's always been a great tempo batsman. It's just that right now, all these tricks and skills that he's had, he's just using them absolutely perfectly, especially in those last 3 tests. But let me show you this another way. There was another ball from Ravichandran Ashwin, who flighted the ball near off stump. Root took a step and smashed the ball over long on for 6. He then came down the wicket to talk to Ollie Pope. It seemed like Pope had to tell him that he'd brought up his 200. He was thinking so much about the situation and what brush to use to finish his masterpiece with. He hadn't actually thought about what his score was. And think about how different that is from the other Ashwin situation. Joe Root is in the sort of form at the moment where he can notice a short runner like an eagle spots a field vole. But he didn't notice the massive score he had already achieved. We don't know how long this will last. Maybe one more test? Maybe 10, maybe 150, although that is doubtful. What I will say is this, enjoy it though, because you don't know how much peak Joe Root is left.